This is now ready for our flowers. You can see where I've drawn in kind of placement with my chalk pencil. I got this is a charcoal white, and it just kind of gives me placement before I get going to understand where things will be. So first off, I want to put in some leaves, and I'm going to do that in different areas where I see like the hydrangeas coming together, and like maybe below the rose. I could wait a little while for the rose. First, I'm going to do the hydrangeas. So I'm going to get my 2 colors of green on my palette, and we will start painting our leaves. So I'm putting out my sap green. These are plaid folk art colors, if I haven't mentioned that yet. And I'm going to try the classic green. I usually like the citrus green, but we'll try the classic. I can always switch it up if I decide I don't care for this color. So I want the leaves for my hydrangeas to be a little bit on the larger side, because hydrangea leaves are very large. And I'm going to do that with my 3/4 inch brush and double loading. You see how I dipped each corner and I double load. Hopefully the glare from the light's not too annoying. And I'm going to decide where I want a leaf. Up here, 2 hydrangeas are coming together. I think that's a good place for a leaf. Now these are my stroke leaves, and I just start out pushing 1, 2, 3, and then I do a little wiggle. I have plenty of paint on my brush, so it just flows. Now part of this will be under the hydrangea, and that's okay. But you notice how I did the light green against the dark green, and that creates that center seam and area. So I'm sorry for the little bit of glare. My lighting is not optimum in here. But there is our first hydrangea leaf, and I think another one up here, maybe, or one coming down off of here. Now I will do some smaller leaves as well, but first I wanted to get these larger leaves done. And I love stroke work. It's like spreading frosting on a cake. But I'm terrible upside down, so if you see me kind of struggle here, then you know why. Then I just drag a stem in. You can leave it if you don't want to drag a stem in. That works just fine. The classic green is working for me, so I'm happy with that. So I need to decide, okay, right here I have a stem hanging down, and I may want that to be roses, like a rosebud hanging down, or something of that nature. So I might want to do a hydrangea leaf over here, or maybe some slider leaves, just a few slider leaves. And those are pretty simple. Double load my brush, still have plenty of paint. Here is the outline, and I can have this slider leaf press, pull, and lift, and that will be partially under the hydrangea. I might have taken it out a little further if I wanted to. And let's do a couple of leaves up here. I'm walking around. Now I would normally shift the canvas to suit my positioning, but I'm just going to move to the other side of the canvas. So I'm going to reach across here, reload, so I have plenty of paint in the brush, and carefully, see how I wiggle, twist, pull to a point, and I'm trying to be very careful to make a point. Now that one's just too pointed too suddenly. There. Make it a little more even. And I can go over that later if I don't care for how that looks and how it's split. Or I could do it now. There. So we were getting our leaves going for the hydrangeas. So here's another hydrangea. I could, pull like a stem with a stroke leaf or a simple leaf. There, it goes off the canvas, that's fine. Maybe a stroke leaf here. Go over that one again. I call those slider leaves really, not stroke leaves, but everything is good. So we don't want to get carried away. We can always add more later. And I can add some smaller ones around. So there we have our leaves. Now I'm going to put out my colors for my hydrangeas because I wanted those to be in the background. The roses are going to sit on top. And so let's get our hydrangeas colors out. Now I've put out some white, and I mixed a bit of the classic green into the white to create this lighter green. I want this background hydrangea to be a green one, not a green one, but a white one. And a lot of times they will have green, a hint of green to them, limelight, etc. And I'm just going to get a little bit more white so it's lighter on the top. Now, I don't want a perfect circle. If you look at hydrangeas, they're not perfect circles. So I've got this color in here. I like it a little bit darker along the bottom, gives it a little shadowing. And I'm just blending a touch of that paint in there. Just blend it out, go over that leaf there. Now when I do the roses on top, they will sit. It'll put this to the background, but some of it may show through. So we're going to go with that. And we are looking, I see that. Is that where that rose is? I'll worry about that later. Sorry if I talk to myself. I'm just working my way through this as I do it. Yes, this is just, I'm getting used to a new camera. So I'm kind of figuring out how it works, etc. This is my test run, so that's why I'm kind of just fudging through this painting tutorial. So there is the background hydrangea. Now I'm just going to rinse out my brush, and I will go into a blue. I was going to use, the same blue that's here in the boots. It creates color harmony. Now this is going to be the background. I had started to use the navy blue and thought, no, that just seems so dull. So this is not navy blue. That was the ink spot, I do believe. And anyways, so I have, still my brush has quite a bit of water in it. I don't mind that because this is going to go on as thinly as possible. Not as possible, but I'm just going to put on a thin coat because this is going to be, making it kind of squared off there, just the background of this one, and I'll lighten it up here a little bit. So we got that darker blue in there. Pull it over that a little bit. And I'm going to go into what I love. One of my favorite blues is Look at Me blue. I might bring this one over here. I might make it the top color of that one. And you know what? One thing about acrylics, if I totally hate all of this, I can just go over those colors. Decide on something different. So this one's also going to be blue. I'm trying to see my lines. You notice how I'm going over the leaves because that sets them to the back. A little bit darker towards the base of that. Don't mind if I drag some of that green in because you can see green. That's too round. I don't want to be a head. So we'll just take it up that way a little bit down this way. I do want it a little darker at the base, or down here, just right down here is where I want it darker. Okay, it's all blending in just perfectly. Hopefully the glare is not too much for you. So we've got this one a little bit shaded different than that one, and we're going to let those dry. So I know my roses are going to be here And I can go in and put one of those leaves in for the roses. So I want a smaller brush. I can use my 10, or maybe I would rather have my 12 flat. Let me find that. All right, I have a number 12 flat. This is also a Donna Dewberry. It's just a different coloration on it, but I love the flat brushes. I use almost primarily flat brushes, so don't be afraid that you have to buy all these different types of brushes to paint with. So I'm out of classic green. I could put in a little different color, but I'm going to stick with the same color greens here. So this is my 12. Oh, no, it's a 16. Huh. So I'm wrong. I would normally go for 12, but I already have this out, so I'm going to stick with it. So one rose is here. This is coming down. Now roses have like 6 stems coming off. So we'll just take, not stems, what am I saying? Leaves off there. Six or 5. So we'll just, I'm not liking that, but I'm going to go with it. And I can bring a rose down here. And that's what happens when you wing it. You do something you don't like. Now, if this was a board, I would sand that off a little bit, and then I could just do what I wanted. So let's see, there's a rose here, so I will bring just some indications of leaves there. So that's all good. I think I'm going to put some little bit of hydrangeas down here at the feet, or maybe a rosebud, but let's just go with some blue down here, just a hint of some hydrangea there. It's kind of flat on the bottom because it's sitting down on the table. I might have a rose with that one. Okay, so let's see. We're going to have to let this dry, so let's keep on going. I have some Look at Me Blue on my palette. I also can do some of the green and white. So what I'm going to do is just pull, this is the number 10 flat. I'm just pulling some little petals into that color. The lightest is on the top. And I'm doing like 3 petal strokes. That one's a little goofball. And you will pick up some of the green. That's okay. We want that effect. We don't want that round, hard edge to show. So we're just going to bury it. Now you can also do some complete. I'm just doing pat, stroke, pull, pull, and then do a straight across line, or you can do 2. Like do a couple, and that makes it like a truncated, like it's facing you. And just pull in some strokes. Don't be perfect. Just pull in an indication of petals. And if you want to add a touch of the green, go right ahead. I may not have had the contrast with the darker at the base as much as I would have liked, but we're not going to overthink this. And some of them will be not opaque. They'll be more transparent than others. That's fine. We want that green showing through. I'm going to come back up with the other direction with these. And there we have that. Now if you want to add a few more green in there, a little bit darker, here at the base, you do that. That will just bring in a depth of color down there. You can even add a few in here. That prevents it from being too white and too stark. So there we have our top hydrangea. This is our white hydrangea with a little bit of green in there. And we'll add some little dots, centers later. Right now they probably would just get lost. So now we can do one of the blue ones. We'll go over here to this darker one first. Now I didn't get this light enough up here, but we're not going to worry about it. I've got too much going on here. Let's double load this brush and if I have to, add a little more of the darker blue. I'm dipping in the white. This is the navy blue and this is the look at me blue. And add that white. Same thing, just stroke it in. If you get too much where it's being too globby, then rinse your brush out and reload it. And I need some more white here in a minute. Be surprised that when it all comes together how not being perfect, you don't have to get tons of petals perfect. Just you want an indication of petals, and that will go far. In making your design. You can have some come like they're dripping off. Bring in that other blue. Now, if you want to be more precise, that's up to you. You can just be very slow and deliberate. That's relaxing too. And you may find, having a little more control that way suits your personal style. So I need more white on my palette. Now this is too dark for my taste. I want it to be lighter. So I'm just going to go in with more white, a layer of white. Now I still have blue in my brush, I'm just adding some white. And it helps if you kind of pull into the center with those strokes. The navy's making this a little duller than I wanted, but that's okay. This is going to be the backdrop to the roses. Okay. My paintbrush is getting gloppy. I need to rinse it out. I'm going to leave that be. I'll come back and revisit it. This one is going to be mostly the Look at Me blue with the white. So I'm going to put in some strokes of the Look at Me blue. I may have said this already, but my favorite blue in folk art colors is True Blue, and I could not find my True Blue. So I don't know what's going on there, or why. I might have used it all up. Bring in a little dark blue down here so we keep it darker without burying it. I think it'll stay dark. I think that underneath is going to show through. Sometimes I just get going and I don't pay attention to things, and I get some too much of one color. I lose my variations. So let's do a couple of drips. This true blue is not quite as opaque as the others. Can also bring in, I don't like that up there, so I'm going to bring in some white too. And I'm going to bring the white petals into the center and finish a couple. So they're like full-blown flowers. Some I've truncated. But especially up here, this needs a little. Okay, stepping back a little bit and looking. Okay, we'll pull in some more color over here. Alrighty, we're looking good. So I'm going to rinse out my brush a little bit. I don't have to fully do it, just enough. I'm going to get some of this green, and I'm going to put a touch in there. Just a touch here and there. Just to create some harmony there. Alrighty, I can go down here and do these. Let's see, let's have it kind of go this direction. Trying to keep it flatter because it's laying flat on the table on this bottom edge. A little darker. Bring some light up here, touch of green in there. Okay, that's fine. If I want to differentiate a little more in there, I'll bring some more white in. And we'll go over and do the opposite side. A little white. And a little look at me blue. You can paint around the edges if you like. Okay, we're going to differentiate. Got too many of the same color. Starting to turn to mud. Okay, so there we have that one. I might do a little leaf right here. Just give it a little hint of a leaf. Okay, so there we have our hydrangeas. This is nice thick paint up here, so it's sticking. It's taken a good while to dry. Now I'm going to get a stylus. I'm going to see if I can put some centers in our hydrangeas. I need a tiny stylus, or you can do it with a liner brush. While I'm giving this time to dry, all the colors, before I put in my dots, they're still a little bit wet to put those in. I'm coming in with some floating medium. This is called floating medium. And I'm going to put in some what I call shadow leaves. Also a good color to do shadow leaves in is a lavender. But I'm going to do it with the light green or the classic green. It may still have a little bit of white in it, but and if it don't, I'll mix a little because I want it to be a faint. Let me see how this is going to go on. Still maybe a little dark, a little more floating medium. Just bring in some little shadowy leaves. They're very transparent. Can even go over your other leaves. They should fade into the background. Just be very transparent, very faint. Can even do a stroke leaf, scallop stroke leaf. Doesn't have to be perfect because, as I said, it's just a faint hint. That's just a touch. It's just those little slider leaves. So here's the stylus that I will use. These are come in a multi-pack. I got these off of Amazon. And what's nice, they're for like people who do fingernail painting. And they really work nice and have several different size tips for doing the centers. So I'm going to just dab in. Might be a little bit big. There's also one that's smaller, but just use a light touch and just bring in a center for a few. You don't want to get too dotty and have them everywhere. And you don't have to get into the very center of a flower. You're just getting an indication of something and not the true blue. Let's see, up there. So that's it. We're not going to leave that alone. And then I'm going to do something. I don't know if I like that. I might do a green and white for the center of the blue hydrangeas. Many times it's a very similar color to the flowers and it's not really stand out. And maybe I'll just do white. Just put it in there. I'm getting the glare now, so I'm having a hard time seeing what I'm doing. Less is more. Walk it around. See, that one's too big, but I'm not going to fret because they all kind of meld together. In the overall design. So we're going to leave that as is, as I do another one. Okay, so like I said, less is more. It's very easy to add more, but it's very hard to take away. And do some on these ones down here. Okay,